We are near the end of our countdown of the top 25 Nashville Predators players of all time. Today, we go numbers 10 through numbers 6. We're in the top half of the list. We'll talk about them today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you, and we appreciate the support you give us week after week. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Today's episode also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter promo code LockedOnNHL for a free white tech hat with any order. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise. All right, we are counting down the top 25 Nashville Predators players of all time. We have made it all the way through numbers 10 through number 6. We are getting to the end of the list, Ann.
It's getting juicy now, y'all.
It is
getting juicy now.
Yeah. For the most part, we have gotten mostly just into, kind of the players who are good for a couple of seasons or maybe some nice role players. Now we're into the nitty gritty. These are the franchise changers.
That's right.
The players who single-handedly shaped the franchise. And as always, if you missed any part of our list so far, go back and listen. All of our episodes are on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast. So make sure you tune in so you can hear where your favorite player placed. And we have made it to number 10.
Yeah, and here's something that I want to preface 10 through 6 with for everyone. It's going to be a little bit painful because two of these guys, the Predators just got rid of.
Yeah, recently, yes.
Recently. Starting with number 10, y'all.
Number 10, Ann, do the honors.
Right out of the gate.
Yep. Ryan Johansen.
Right.
Comes in at number 10. This is one I think is going to get some people riled up because I think a lot of people are going to be shaking that $8 million contract in the air and being like, hey, what's this about?
Yeah.
Dare I say, Ann, when it's all said and done, maybe one of the more underappreciated Predators of all time.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with you on that. And what makes it more painful is I think we're going to see that also this season. I think we're going to become more appreciative of Ryan Johansen, perhaps, as we watch him with another team. Of course, Johansen played 8 seasons with the Nashville Predators, 533 games played. He had 362 points and he had a plus 11, which I feel like we don't give enough credit to Ryjo's defensive game. He one time made the comment, he made a fantastic defensive play, and he made the comment that it was because he has long orangutan arms. And so we will never forget that. But Ryan Johansen, great two-way player, traded for Seth Jones, which was kind of a big thing in 2016 when that went down. What is interesting is what David Poile banked on with Ryan Johansen. I'm not sure he got exactly that, but he got something else that I think makes Johansen a top 10 player for the Predators. When he was with Columbus, he had, 20 goal seasons. Came to Nashville, he did not have a 20-goal season until 2021-22 in Nashville, which was really surprising for as important as he is, even in those seasons where he played with the Jofa guys.
A different type of player.
Yeah, he was. But here's where Ryan Johansen gave you bang for your buck, friends, and that was in the postseason.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, Ann, where, we always talk about, 2017 and what would have happened if Ryan Johansen had not been injured. Clearly, the best player on the Nashville Predators, maybe besides Pekka Rinne, that entire playoffs. Just the impact that he had on the games. Played almost 21 minutes a night during that postseason. And he did a little bit of everything, played really good defense, was shorthanded for a little bit, spent some time, playing on the penalty kill, played on the power play, would take key face-offs late in the game in the defensive zone and the offensive zone. He was really that Swiss Army knife that did a little bit of everything for the Nashville Predators, and he scored 13 points in 14 playoff games. And also the next year, he followed it up again, 14 points in 13 playoff games. He was the Preds' leading scorer in that 2018 playoff run too. And, we always talk about that, playoff Ryan Johansen. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's never a 20-goal scorer. We expected him to, kind of be this perennial top scorer and live up to the potential and everything. And I think that's when people, when they talk about Ryan Johansen, are like, oh, well, why is he this high? Overrated player, blah, 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 blah. You look at his total contribution and 6 all-time in the Nashville Predators in points, 6 all-time in assists. And it just feels like we read those stats and it's like, really, Ryan Johansen was that guy?
Yeah.
Contributed that much to the Nashville Predators?
Yeah. And then you look at those stats in a playoff setting, in the playoffs, when it comes to career goals, he is second only to Philip Forsberg. He is first in playoff assists. So there is an elevated level, and there is so much credit that needs to go to Ryan Johansen for that Stanley Cup run. It just does. I mean, he really was, he was a team changer. And I think, would Victor Arvidsson have had the same success in Nashville if he hadn't been with Ryan Johansen? I don't know. Yeah. Philip Forsberg certainly benefited from playing with Ryan Johansen in those seasons. So underappreciated. I agree. And I fear, like I said earlier, I fear we are going to realize this next season as he, takes his spot in, on the second line for the Colorado Avalanche. I think, we could see, even though he's older, even though, Barry Trotz talked about, he's got to step up the speed of his game and this, I think there's plenty more of Ryan Johansen that we could regret.
Yeah. And, we talk about his lack of speed and everything, but he showed it last year. He's still a great passer.
Yes.
Still really good around the net, has a good eye for the puck. I'm kind of with you, Ann. I would have been curious to see what Ryan Johansen maybe would have done next year in a Predators uniform.
Yeah. The other thing I want to shout out Ryan Johansen for is this is somebody who is a teammate favorite. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who guys love playing with, who, has just a fun, good, lighthearted vibe. This is a guy who dresses up like the Grinch and goes to teammates' houses on Christmas Eve to see their kids. Like quality dude.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody in Nashville in the locker room has had, much of a bad thing to say about Ryan Johansen at all. And that is true for a couple other players on this list as well. We're going to get into some real team favorites and fan favorites as well, including a couple familiar names, a couple of which maybe argue should be in the top 5. We'll get to those in just 1 second. But first, want to mention again, today's show is sponsored by Bird Dogs, a.k.a. the most comfortable shorts I think I have ever worn. You've probably seen like ads for Bird Dogs on social media. There's a lot of influencers and, internet celebrities that, talk about these and hawk these things. And I think maybe you see those and think it's probably just some pair of pants. I kind of thought that too. And then I got a couple of pairs of Bird Dogs just to try them out. And I fell in love with them right away. Bird Dogs, number one, made me look great. Their stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit similar through the thigh and leg, which give my legs a sculpted look. The girlfriend says I have a nice hockey butt when I wear them. So take that for what it's worth. They're basically the same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. And they fit way better than like the regular dress shorts that are made of like that stiff restricting cotton. Instead, Bird Dogs has a cloud knit fabric that looks like khaki, but stretches to give you a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And they use anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. You can wear these things literally anywhere, whether you're out on a fancy date night, whether you're out on the golf course, or just lounging around the house. They're comfortable enough and they look nice enough that you can wear them literally in any occasion. So try them yourself. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter promo code LockedOnNHL for a free white tech hat with your order. Again, birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or promo code LockedOnNHL for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. I guarantee it. All right, Ann, we are continuing our list of the top 25 Nashville Predators players of all time. Number 9 is number 9.
How about it?
The original number 9.
That's right.
Paul Kariya.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I spent way too much time looking back at Paul Kariya highlights and interviews and oh my goodness, y'all. Here's what I want to say about Paul Kariya. And we're going to talk obviously about his time here in Nashville, but Paul Kariya is the player that Barry Trotz wants to have on the Nashville Predators now. When you talk about a player, when you talk about a player who's going to get fans out of their seats, friends, you're talking about Paul Kariya. You know, he only played 2 seasons in Nashville, 164 games played, but my gosh, what an impact this guy had on the Nashville Predators. Somebody whose game at times was compared to Wayne Gretzky. Of course, started out with Anaheim, was an all-star with Anaheim. He was runner-up for the Hart Trophy in 97, was captain. This is a guy who just had such an impressive body of work and signed with the Nashville Predators, y'all.
And that's the thing.
Yes.
Paul Kariya was the first legitimate superstar.
Yes.
To come to Nashville. You know, there were some good players in Nashville before that. But Paul Kariya signing that free agent deal legitimized the Nashville Predators and the direction they were going in as a team. You know, up until then, the Predators were just kind of, you know, they made the playoffs their first time before the 2004-2005 lockout hit. You know, a lot of people were just kind of thinking, oh, this is kind of like a nice, you know, fun, scrappy team, may put the scare into some people. Paul Kariya signs for the Nashville Predators, by far the biggest star the Preds had up until that point. And it's what he said that I think opened the door for other players of his caliber to come to Nashville. You know, they asked him, hey, why'd you do it? And, you know, he easily could have gone, oh, nobody else wanted me, or, you know, we'll see what happens. He said, no, Nashville was the team I wanted to come for. Barry Trotz was the coach I wanted to play for, because I look at this team, you know, I've gone head to head with them. They're fun to watch. Like, they play a very fun style. And it's something, and he's like, you know, he called the Nashville Predators, I think, a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
That legitimized the Nashville Predators. And the minute Paul Kariya signed on the dotted line, changed the direction of the franchise. So, you know, he's 9 on this list. And just because, you know, he only played 2 seasons, although, you know, he did have the points record for probably a lot longer than he should have. His 85 points in a season were the most in a season until Roman Josi broke that last year. Matt Duchene also broke that. But in terms of players who impacted the franchise, who changed the trajectory of the franchise, it's hard pressed to find many people who did that more than Kariya did when he signed with the Preds.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, look, this wasn't his only option. There were about 10 teams that were frantically trying to sign Kariya. And when he signed here with Nashville for those 2 seasons, it was franchise changing. You know, is this still to this day the biggest signing for the Predators, do you think? Or
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because not only was he on ice, just an absolute juggernaut for the Nashville Predators, 85 points in 2006, which was the record we were talking about, and then 76 in 2007. But as we mentioned, it's just the impact. Like, the Predators never had a star come to the team before, and the fact that he did and delivered,
come on,
helped the Predators to a couple of their best seasons in team history. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue anybody having the kind of impact that he had.
Yeah. And it was interesting the way his time in Nashville started, because he kind of had a couple little tweaky, weird injuries in training camp. So Predators fans really didn't see much of him until the regular season started. He was ready to go in the regular season. And in his first season, he set the franchise record in goals, assists, points. Like, he just came out like a bat out of hell in Nashville. And it fills you with regret when you look at why he left.
Yeah. And it's
total frustration.
Yeah. I mean, you wonder that ownership strife doesn't happen, that relocation strife doesn't happen. What do the Nashville Predators look like the few years after that? Because they were really building something there.
Yeah.
Another member on that team, Anne, is number 8 on our list. Martin Erat.
Martin Erat.
If he should be high on this list, not just for his contributions, but for the fact that his trade request wound up with Philip Forsberg coming to Nashville. So just that contribution alone should put him high on this list. And of course, that's what everybody in Nashville remembers him for, Anne.
Right.
Or at least, kind of in the grand scheme of things. But you look at Erat as a player, and another guy that I think was just kind of underappreciated his time here when you go back and look at the scope of his entire career.
Yeah. And this is somebody who Nashville got in the 7th round in 1999. He played 11 seasons, y'all, with Nashville. 4th in team history for goals scored. Roman Josi only needs 5 to tie, 6 to go above him in that. So that's going to happen this season. But 3rd all-time in assists, 4th all-time in points behind Josi, Legwand, and Forsberg, 6th in power play goals, 4th in game-winning goals, 5th in power play points. Like, this is somebody who, like you said, we kind of joke like, hey, the greatest thing he ever did was get us Philip Forsberg. But he also, while he was here, really contributed a ton to the Nashville Predators, and, kind of helped them become a team that had depth, had the scoring, didn't just have one guy. He was a part of that vowel line, and it really built something when Martin Erat was here.
Yeah, you mentioned the vowel line. That was if I believe the first named line in Nashville Predators history. I'm trying to think if there's any before then. Of course, that was Martin Erat, Vladimir Orzag, and Denis Arkhipov. I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody before then. But yeah, like Martin Erat, another sort of underappreciated guy, a little bit like Ryan Johansen, in the sense that he did a lot of things really well. Underrated two-way player. He did spend some time here and there on the penalty kill. Barry Trotz, of course, wasn't afraid to use him in any situation. Of course, just based on longevity, there's few that have done more than him. 723 games as a Pred, 4th most all time, 4th in goals, 3rd in assists, 4th in points. You just look over and his name is in the top 3-4 in pretty much every record in team history. Led the Predators in points for a couple seasons in his career, and I think he was just sort of that very calming presence, just like a reliable contributor in a lot of different places in the lineup.
Yeah, and he had a great rookie season too. And it's kind of interesting, historic. Great rookie season, set the rookie record for games played, assists, and points. Has since been surpassed by, wait for it, Philip Forsberg. Thank you, Martin Erat. Yeah. But he also then went back and spent time in Milwaukee, a la Phil Tomasino. You know what I'm saying? So his trajectory was pretty unique, but it also panned out pretty darn well. So everybody just breathe through the Phil Tomasino thing. We've been through this before.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Is he the only rookie to play all 82 games his first season in the NHL?
I don't know, but he's got to be
I
one of the very few.
maybe Seth Jones might be the only other person to do that.
Yeah.
No, and Seth Jones missed 5 games. So yeah, I think Martin Erat to this day is the only Nashville Predator to play all 82 points in his 82 games in his debut season.
Yeah.
So that's rare. That's a rare accomplishment.
Yep. And then he asked for a trade, y'all.
And then we got Philip Forsberg, so you can't be mad at him. Hey.
So God bless you, Martin Erat. Thanks for your time here, and thanks for the trade.
Yeah.
Said with love.
Yes. Of course, we're counting down the top 25 Nashville Predators players ever in honor of the team's 25th anniversary. Let's go to number 7. Boy, there's still a lot of people who consider this maybe the first franchise player in team history. Number 29, Tomáš Vokoun.
Come on. So he was selected in the 9th round by Montreal. Only played 1 game in Montreal before the Predators snagged him up in the expansion draft, which I think bold move, David Poile. Bold move. Became the starter in 2002. He kind of split time between Milwaukee and Nashville, working up to that starting job. Ended up going to the All-Star game in 2003, 2004, and carried the Predators to their first ever playoff berth against Detroit, and got the first shutout in playoff history in that series. Of course, they didn't win it, but details, y'all. Details.
And the first shutout ever in Nashville Predators history.
That's true. Yeah. He was the Pecorine before we had Pecorine, y'all.
To me, Anne, because I was thinking, kind of about comparisons to Tomáš Vokoun and compare, how to describe him to newer fans.
Right.
More to me, almost like UC Saros of his time, in that he did more with not a lot in front of him.
Yeah.
Like he did more with less than a lot of other goalies that were in the league at that time. A very strong argument. He was the team's, actually, I'm going to take that back. Clearly the team's most valuable player in 2003 and 2004. You can make a strong argument, even with Paul Kariya there, that he was the team's MVP in 2006. He got votes for the Hart Trophy that year and was almost just outside the top 3 in Vezina voting. And it's just, and also look what happened when he missed the playoffs that year due to injury.
Yeah.
That derailed very quickly. Yeah, it was just Tomáš Vokoun was just sort of that first, always there every night, just the forever calming presence. The guy that even if, would get outshot, 50-20 in a game, but still give the team a fighting chance late.
Yeah. And how lucky are the Nashville Predators that Vokoun started that? Okay, how lucky. Also, it's a bitter pill to swallow that we've had Pecorine, UC Saros, and now Yaroslav Askarov in the pipeline. You have goaltenders that are going to be able to steal games. Now, it would also be nice if the Nashville Predators didn't have to rely on that. But, this is something that the Predators saw, and it started with Vokoun.
Yeah. And I should also point out, he started that year, the inaugural season, as the team's 3rd goaltender. He was buried in Milwaukee. Yeah. He was behind Mike Dunham. He was behind Eric Fischode. Both of those guys got hurt. In comes Tomáš Vokoun up from Milwaukee. And I still remember the ice storm game, Anne, where Tomáš Vokoun makes 50 saves. Preds get the win over then the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Red Wings. That was his coming out party. And just more stories like that. Plus the first Nashville Predators goalie. And I think to this day, still the only Nashville Predators goalie to have a fighting major.
That's my favorite stat.
Tomáš Vokoun versus Mika Kiprasov during the Preds Flames brawl in 2004. Go look that up. Also, him and Jarome Iginla, fireworks against each other every game.
Oh, you got to love that. You got to love a goalie that's willing to get a fighting major.
Absolutely. We are down to number 6 and our last name on the list for today. And I'm going to give you a second to go ahead and get your tissue box ready. Go ahead and throw out the crosses. It's because number 6, greatest Nashville Predators player of all time, Mattias Ekholm.
Literally makes me tear up, y'all.
Yeah.
He was Nashville's 4th-round pick in 2009, played 719 games in 12 years with the Nashville Predators, 268 points. 5th in games played, 2nd in plus minus. I know we mock plus minus, but let's just talk about the fact that whether you use that stat or not, Mattias Ekholm, freaking boss blue liner, backbone of the Nashville Predators defense. Of course, we talk about Roman Josi, who will always go down as the Nashville Predators' best defenseman. Mattias Ekholm, definitely the second guy. This is a heartbreaking one for me. I mean, we can talk stats and we will about Mattias Ekholm, but Mattias Ekholm not in the lineup changes so much about the Nashville Predators defense. And one of the things that I love best about Mattias Ekholm is he is that guy who makes his partner better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he and PK Subban, chef's kiss, y'all. Like that pairing right there, key in that Stanley Cup final run. We had to sit and watch it with Evan Bouchard, who just today signed a contract, you know, a kind of a bridge deal with Edmonton because he was killer at the end of the season with Mattias Ekholm in Edmonton. So good grief. I can hardly even talk about it, y'all.
You know, and it's funny because, you know, he's higher on this list than, you know, maybe somebody like Ryan Ellis or,
right.
You know, somebody that, you know, maybe people would consider a, you know, better or at least more prominent defenseman, maybe the name being mentioned around. But Mattias Ekholm, you go back and watch him play.
Good grief.
And like in terms of defense, like let's just say like defense, arguably the best Nashville Predators defenseman of all time. Like arguably the best defensive defenseman of all time in a Nashville Predators uniform. And I don't say that lightly because we have 3 more defensemen that are ranked ahead of him on this list. But in terms of just
straight defense,
stability, strength, and making the smart play, there are very few players in team history that did that better than Mattias Ekholm. And he did it for so long too. And again, you know, this is almost kind of the same vein as when we were talking about Ryan Ellis. Is just, it just seems like because he was always second fiddle to somebody else, even on his own defensive pair, you know, PK
very true.
Subban. You know, PK Subban was, you know, Norris winner, you know, superstar around the league. You know, he was second fiddle to his own defensive partner. And, you know, he's behind Roman Josi, behind Shea Weber. And it just seems like we never really got to appreciate just how good Mattias Ekholm was as a blue liner. And, you know, even, you know, who was it? Was that Stuart Skinner? And in the summer that was, you know, basically said, you know, Mattias Ekholm by far the best blue liner ever played with.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you see other players and other teams around the NHL recognize that, but you know, it just seems like sometimes not even we take a step back and be like, oh man, Mattias Ekholm, like how good was he?
Incredible.
Especially at his peak. Still to this day, amazing player.
Yeah. I got to talk to Connor McDavid at the draft and awards and asked him about Mattias Ekholm. And he's like, he's incredible. Just incredible. And the difference he makes on the team is huge. And like I said, you look at Evan Bouchard, who, you know, really popped off when Ekholm kind of became his defensive partner. There is so much to like about Mattias Ekholm. Now, little fun story about Stuart Skinner and Mattias Ekholm that we learned at the awards. Stuart Skinner bought a house out from under Mattias Ekholm.
This is my favorite thing that I learned during the award ceremony. Yeah.
So funny. So Mattias Ekholm, of course, he and his wife, they just had their 3rd child, a little boy, moved to Edmonton and found a house that they loved and went to put an offer in on it. And somebody had bought it the night before. And he came to the locker room, was really frustrated about it and was talking about it. And Stuart Skinner's like, hey, where was this house that you were liking? Awkward. It was the one Stuart Skinner put a bid on the night before. So Stuart Skinner, be very, very nice to Mattias Ekholm, but we are going to have to watch Ekholm continue to be just one of the best defensemen, one of the most underrated defensemen in the league as he plays with Edmonton. And it's going to hurt.
I was going to say, are we going to have to witness a play where Mattias Ekholm just like skates away, like the Sergei Kostitsyn play for like the Nashville Predators, where there's just an odd man rush in front of Stuart Skinner, and Ekholm's like, nope,
go for it.
Go for it.
You know what?
yeah, there's the payback.
Here's your housewarming gift, Stuart Skinner.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be a warm reception when he comes back, though, because Mattias Ekholm is so beloved by the Nashville Predators community.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game to witness. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mattias Ekholm, definitely one of the best Nashville Predators players of all time.
Yep.
And like I said, defensively, maybe the best defensive defenseman in Nashville Predators history.
Agreed.
That is our list for today. All that's left are numbers 5 through 1. Using process of elimination, you probably could figure out who's left, but where are they ranked? That's going to be the big question. Maybe some surprises, maybe some disagreements that you guys will have. So tune in when we have the rest of that list for you next week. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter, X. It feels weird to say I'm on X. You know what I'm saying? It just feels a little gross. But anyway, I'm on that social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
Yeah, you can find me on that app Ann was talking about at _NS Morgan, or read my work at penaltyboxradio.com. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked on Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back with an all new episode later this week. We'll see you then.